Early November in Washington, D.C., where you'll suddenly be hearing as much talk about football as AWACS or Reaganomics. In recent weeks, the Washington Redskins have caught fire and have rebounded from a discouraging 0-5 start. The Redskins have won 3 of their last 4 games while piling up some impressive offensive numbers in the process. This should come as no surprise to their pass-minded first-year coach Joe Gibbs, who came to the nation's capital for just that reason. Last week, the Redskins put 42 points on the board, thanks in part to their loquacious quarterback, Joe Theismann. In his last 3 games, Joe has completed 70% of his passes and hasn't thrown an interception in 10 quarters. Ever since the Redskins switched to a 2 tight end offensive alignment, Theismann has been more cheerful than ever. It had been rough for a while, but the Redskins have now shown that they won't be pushovers for the rest of the season. Their playoff chances are slim, but today's opponent, the Detroit Lions, still harbors such aspirations. If the Lions hope to contend in their division, the NFC Central, they'll have to start winning on the road. So far, they've missed on all 5 of their away games, and the Lions have never won here in Washington. But head coach Monty Clark feels both strings can be snapped if second-year quarterback sensation Eric Hipple performs as well as he has in recent weeks. In 3 starts, Hipple has accounted for 10 touchdowns, while leading the team to wins over Chicago and Green Bay. One of the big reasons for Hipple's success has been the quiet effectiveness of veteran wide receiver Freddie Scott. Scott is having his best year and has helped add variety to the Lions' attack. So for now in our nation's capital, let's forget about Alexander Haig and supply-side economics for a while. As the band strikes up Hail to the Redskins, it's the cue for the beginning of an exciting NFC interdivisional battle. From RFK Stadium, it's the Detroit Lions versus the Washington Redskins on the NFL Game of the Week. The very first play of the game would set the tone for the entire afternoon as the Lions committed the first of 6 turnovers on the day. Number 35, Alvin Hall, made a costly fumble, and the Redskins had an early break. Washington took over on the Detroit 22-yard line, and it only took them 3 plays to score, with number 25, running back Joe Washington, doing the honors. Since Little Joe has come to the city of his namesake, he has given the Redskins the backfield speed they had previously lacked. This slashing run made it 7-0 before the game was a half-minute old, and was made possible by a key block from rookie left guard Russ Grimm, number 68. What Detroit needed to do now on the heels of this sudden score was to come back with a solid offensive drive. What they didn't need was another turnover, but that's just what happened a few minutes later. The Redskins recovered again, and while they didn't get a touchdown this time, Mark Mosley did provide a field goal to make it 10-0 Washington. There must really be something to this road jinx the Lions have, because they just couldn't stop handing the football over to the Redskins. On their next possession, they did it again. This time it was an interception by number 24, cornerback Lamar Parrish. The Redskins appeared ready to take advantage of this one, too, as Joe Theismann quickly found Terry Metcalf, number 26, for a sizable gain. by this time, the Lion defense roared, "Enough is enough," sacking Theismann and ending the Redskin drive. Theismann wasn't the only guy in RFK to feel the pressure. The Lions' Eric Hipple was having a few problems of his own in the passing pocket. The incident appeared to be worse than it actually was. A second look reveals that this tousling of Hipple came well after he had dumped the ball off to running back Dexter Bussey, number 24, who then picked up an apparent Detroit first down. But a Lion penalty eventually wiped out the game. Despite all these setbacks, Hipple kept the drive going and capped it when he went to number 87, Freddie Scott. The first quarter ended, and the Lions trailed by only a field goal, even though they had already coughed up the ball 3 times. This had to be encouraging to the men of the Motor City, along with the fact that they really hadn't gotten their ground game going yet. The Washington defense knew that Eric Hipple notwithstanding, the Lions move best when their backs are carrying the ball. Washington was prepared to stop the run, and did so effectively for a while. But it's just too much to ask a defense to stop people like superback Billy Sims, number 20, for an entire game. And in the second period, Sims finally started to roll. Sims was shaken up for a while and had to leave, but would return. In his absence, Hipple took over the running chores and did just fine. The Lions now led for the first time 14-10, but the Redskins hardly collapsed. Theismann immediately went to number 80, first-year receiver Virgil Say, for a 60-yard completion. Washington got no further, however, when Lion corner Hector Gray, number 26, defended on a third down pass that was ticketed for the end zone. Washington settled for 3 to make it 14-13 Detroit, but then the Lions were back to their old tricks again on the kickoff that followed the Redskin field goal. Fortunately for Detroit, the play was ruled a touchback and they retained possession. Having survived this scare, Detroit proceeded to put together its best drive of the half. Freddie Scott's catch got things rolling, and then Billy Sims took control of the game. Sims' 8th touchdown of the year gave the Lions an 8-point lead with 3 minutes to go in the half. But once again, the Redskins showed the resiliency that would ultimately tip the game in their favor. Twice, Theismann hit wide receiver Art Monk, number 81, for key gains. And then with 58 seconds showing on the clock, the Theismann-Monk connection clicked for a score. Washington cut the Lion advantage to 1 as Monk ran a corner pattern that found him having to beat just 1 defender. With Theismann's perfect throw, the touchdown was in the bag. It had been a seesaw first half, but it was just a prelude to the final 30 minutes where the lead would change hands 5 more times before the winning team would be determined. The Redskins hoped to keep their high-powered offense going, while the Lions could only hope that they would leave their first half mistakes behind, bounce back, and end their troubling road jinx of 1981. Throughout the final 30 minutes, scenes such as this would become commonplace. In one bunker, Joe Washington, looking like the tattered patriot preparing for the Battle of Lexington. And out on the battlefield, more casualties. Men of jellied knees and groggy minds, but with the will to continue. These were 2 teams who would hit and battle fiercely, and the surrender at Yorktown would not take place until the final gun had sounded. Joe Theismann and Terry Metcalf loaded their muskets for Washington. Metcalf moved the Redskins 23 yards downfield as the third quarter began. But at the goal line, Terry simply could not hold on to a Theismann third down pass. Mark Mosley drilled it perfectly from 28 yards out, however, and Washington had a tenuous lead once more. For the solitary Lion fan at RFK Stadium, it was time for the man he had come to watch to do his thing. That man, Billy Sims. His thing, a long 51-yard gain. On a 3rd and 4 play, the Redskins were primed to stop Sims, but it simply did not matter. For once the blue streak wearing number 20 gets a step, that's all he needs to break off a long one. Someone once described Sims as a rhapsody in blue, but 3 plays later, when his teammate Dexter Bussey carried, the Lions were the ones singing the blues. Bussey's bungle was recovered by free safety Mark Murphy, and Theismann got things going for the Redskins, calling on Virgil Say and Don Warren, number 85. Theismann had run 11 conservative yet effective ball control plays. Suddenly he abandoned the short passing game for the one-shot wonder. After it was over, Joe would wonder why. Ex-Notre Damer Luther Bradley intercepted ex-Notre Damer Joe Theismann. And while the Irish were well represented on the play, the luck of the Irish abandoned Theismann in favor of the Lions. Somehow it didn't seem to make much sense to a rugged Kansas kid like John Riggins. While the Redskins failed on their opportunity, Dexter Bussey was given one to atone for his earlier fumble when Detroit took over early in the final quarter. A 43-yard gain on a pass interference penalty and a determined 23-yard run by Bussey set the stage for a patented Billy Sims end zone glide. The The Lions dashed 96 yards on only 4 plays. They had taken a 5-point lead on a play that Billy Sims made famous at Oklahoma, the old Sooner wishbone. Quarterback Eric Hipple simply slides right, reads the coverage, and elects to keep or pitch. Hipple read right, Sims ran right, and Detroit was right back in the lead. Seven other NFL games played on this Sunday would be decided by 3 points or less. This game would be no exception. It would go right down to the wire, and the fourth quarter was just beginning to get interesting. Number 40, Jimmy Allen, readied himself and his fellow Lion defenders for the continuing onslaught of the short Redskin passing game, an attack made popular by the Vikings and now mastered by Washington, which uses runners like Metcalf and Joe Washington as receivers. 2 minutes into the fourth quarter, Allen made a big play. Allen didn't bite on a Theismann pump fake and stepped neatly in front of Virgil Say to make the interception. But 4 plays later, All-Pro Joe Lavender returned the favor by batting away a sure 6 points at the last instant. Hipple continued to find end zone resistance, and his next pass ended in disaster. It was not a great defensive play. It was simply a poorly thrown pass. Number 23, Tony Peters, picked off the overthrown offering and set the stage for another outstanding Oklahoma alumnus. Not Sims, the graceful glider, but Joe Washington, the elusive herky-jerky sidestepper. Washington withstood a wallop and finished a march in which he handled the ball 7 times in 9 plays. Billy Sims and Little Joe would total 159 and 144 yards respectively in a game that featured Oklahoma greats who combined for over 300 yards rushing. Washington's touchdown gave the home team a 2-point advantage. But after a Lion punt, the hometown hero coughed up the football on his own 27-yard line with less than 5 minutes left. Detroit's leading tackler, Ken Fantetti, has made an armload of big plays as the Lion middle linebacker. And the armload he had now was certainly another one. Detroit subsequently drove backward 4 yards on 3 plays. And it was up to kicker Eddie Murray to attempt a mammoth 50-yarder with 2 minutes left in the game. As a rookie, Murray was the NFC's leading scorer last season with 116 points and was the Pro Bowl's MVP last year when he kicked 4 field goals. His 52-yarder versus the Rams last year set a Lion record, but this clutch 50-yarder seemed an even sweeter one for the youngster from Tulane. Murray's latest heroics gave Detroit a 31-30 advantage. For the 5th time in the game, the lead had changed hands, and Joe Theismann endeavored to change the lead one final time. Two Joes, Theismann and Washington, combined for 34 yards. And finally, all Theismann had to do was find a nice soft spot on the RFK turf for Mark Mosley, a spot 44 yards away from victory or defeat, with 47 ticks left in the game. The veteran Mosley had outclutched second-year man Eddie Murray, and the Redskins had indeed forced a lead change for an incredible sixth time. The last two games played between these two teams had been won by daring Washington comebacks. In this game, they had done exactly that by assuming a 33-31 lead with seconds left. But this game was still not over. No one left RFK. For in a game where advantages, momentum, and spirits had shifted with each down, punt, and pass, the Lions still had one final scare to put into the Redskin crowd. Everything Eric Hipple wanted from this game, he put into one final pass. Rookie speedster Mark Nichols pulled it in the crowd for a 48-yard gain down to the Redskin 2-yard line. But time had run out on the Lions. 6 feet away from victory is where Detroit's hopes had come to an end. They had come so close, but still they had dropped their 6th straight road game of the year. For Billy Sims, his 193 yards in total offense were no consolation, as the loss dropped the Lions to 4-6, 2 games behind division-leading Minnesota. For the Redskins, it marked their 3rd victory in a row. They had lost some hard-fought games early in the season, but now it looks like the team from the nation's capital is playing like a contender once more. Final score, Redskins 33, Lions 31.